you for coming from all points, close to and far away in a couple of cases. And if you are a Tim Cahill supporter, thank you for coming as well. I'm not kidding. I'm governor for people who vote for me and who don't, for people who support me and who don't. And if you know a Tim Cahill supporter who's not in the room, you go tell them when I'm trying to make judgments on our behalf about the best interests of the whole of the Commonwealth, they are on my mind and on my heart, just as you are. That is what managing for the long term is about. I want to say a word or two about where we are as a Commonwealth and where we're going, and I want to just tell some of you a story. I've told a couple of you before about when the president came to visit in the fall, and I went out to the airport to meet him. And we were riding back in. It still gives me kind of a tickle to be able to say I went out to the airport to meet the president of the United States. And we were riding back together, and he asked me how I was feeling about the coming campaign. And I said, Mr. President, I'm looking forward to the campaign. I like campaigning. And Bill knows, usually when a candidate says they like campaigning, they're lying. But I like it. I like this. I like being out. I like being with people, listening to people. We haven't waited, as many of you know, for the election to be out. Frankly, you better be. Because policy only matters at the point where it touches people. So you better be out, talking with people, engaging with people. But what I said to him, Mr. President, is there are two things I don't like about campaigning. One is asking people for money, especially at a time when they don't have much of it. And the other is the bragging. And the president looked out of the window for a second and turned back. He looked at me. He said, Deval, he said, get over it. It reminded me so much of something Bill Dillahun said to me a few months ago when all the pundits were saying, you're not in this, you're not in this, you're not getting here. He said, if I may be so indelicate, get off your you-know-what and get to work. Tim Murray and I have gotten to work. We are over it. This is not a fundraiser, but don't forget we also need to raise money. And I want to brag a little bit. Because as hard as the times are, and God knows they are hard. I know they are hard. I know what this economy has done to everybody's income and savings and home values and retirement accounts and to people's confidence in the future. I know what this economy has done. I also want you to know that hardship is not our only reality here in this Commonwealth. At the state level, we've been dealing with billions of dollars in budget gaps, over $9 billion. It's required some very difficult, very sensitive decisions. But Tim and I see the face or family, the best chance or only chance behind every one of those line items. And we have stepped up and made those decisions. And so delivered now 3 budgets so far that were balanced, responsible, and on time. Not something many other states can say. Because we have stepped up and made those decisions and brought a blended approach to trying to close that budget gap and manage through this crisis, all 3 independent rating agencies have 3 times reaffirmed our AA bond rating. Again, not something many other states can say. Meanwhile, we've continued to govern. We are first, as Bill said, first in the nation in student achievement. First in the nation in healthcare coverage for our residents. First in the nation in clean and alternative energy policy, particularly energy efficiency. None of that is by accident. It's because we know if we get those and a few other areas right, the Commonwealth will be strong for a long time in terms of jobs, in terms of broad prosperity and opportunity, in terms of a whole new American-based industry. We've stepped up to some big old hard intractable issues about the way your business is done on Beacon Hill. And that's how we ended abuse in the state pension system and tightened the ethics and lobbying rules. We simplified the transportation network. We shut down the Turnpike Authority. That saved you $250 million already. Your auto insurance rates have come down because we introduced competition. 11 new companies, by the way, as well, and hundreds of new jobs. There's civilian flaggers at state construction sites today. And of all of the reforms, education reform, I think, is the one I'm proudest of. Because for the 17 years we've been on this path of trying to improve the public schools, we've had for that entire time an achievement gap. And stuck in that gap are poor children, and children with special needs, or who speak English as a second language. More often than not, children of color. And that's an educational and an economic issue, you know that. But to let it go for 17 years, that's a moral problem. Those are our children too. And now we have some tools to be able to reach that part of our Commonwealth-wide family. There is more investment happening today in rebuilding this broken infrastructure of ours than ever before in the history of the Commonwealth. Ever before. Up to and including the Big Dig. The difference is that it's spread around the whole of the Commonwealth, including right across the street, by the way. And so there are road, rail, and bridge projects, broadband expansion, public and affordable housing investments, open space preservation, some 54,000 acres in the last 18 months, recreational facilities we're investing in, rebuilding our public colleges and university campuses, creating jobs right now, but also economic value and quality of life out for a long, long time. And one other thing, whether it matters in your own family or not, I do think it speaks to our values. You can marry anyone you love in this Commonwealth. Anyone at all.